A geniusly awesome alien blockbuster from Roland Emmerich made its way into the cinemas. The N64 was published in Europe and I turned 12 years old. Yes, there were some more, some less meaningful events in the year 1997, and one event was definitely this game.
Go.
The year 1997 was a glorious year, where once again a comic series turned into an actual video game, just like the today's trend of turning ancient comics or cartoons into real movies. Many US Americans already know the name Turok for many years. This comic series is having many fans there for ages already. This series is about a special warrior who is existing in a world which is ruled by both prehistoric creatures and high-end technology. It really is an interesting mixture, which was pretty well translated into action in this ego shooter, but we shouldn't anticipate here. You are traveling through the Lost Land, where the mentioned creatures are prowling. Surprisingly, all of those are your enemies. It might be because this world was invaded and subdued by some power-obsessed nutcase, which turned all the life forms into his slaves, and so they will attack you at first sight. Good thing that you are equipped with the common tools in ego shooters, a large weapon arsenal with which you can slaughter yourself very well through the 8 levels. This arsenal is containing pretty much everything of ancient and modern weapons a Turok should be having. While the classic knife is rather the weapon for emergency, you've got plenty of projectile, energy and explosion weapons to choose else in your backpack. Several half-automatic guns, which partly can be upgraded with exploding ammo, plasma and impulse firearms, and not to forget everyone's tools of fun, a quad rocket launcher, grenade thrower and other damn nice hardcore explosion weapons. Commonly, you'll find better and heavier guns while you get further in the game. Some are just like laying on your path, others need to get this covered. It's these really nasty situations when you're staying on the edge of a cliff and see a great new weapon on the other side, and no way to reach it. It's not only there where the pretty special level design shows up. The levels are looking good, but by their age and optical means. Sure thing you shouldn't expect miracles in graphics concerning one rather early game for that cartridge eater. Even though we have to admit that at least 6 out of 8 levels are having the same bush theme. But that is kind of alright, since the Lost Land is just looking like this, and it's not like these levels are boring because of that. The levels really are ambitious, and they are challenging you with a load of enemies, jumping passages and a whole ass of more difficult stuff. I guess I have heard something like this already. Another reason why the levels are not getting boring is the number of hidden paths, which either contain new weapons and equipment or keys to the continuous levels, which you actually need to discover. So they made sure that you will not only race through the levels and chop down everything that moves without having something sensible to do. That would be dumb. It's the same with the keys as it is with the weapons. Some are just appearing on your main path, while others are laughing their ass off seeing you dying and dying again until you have reached them. The game always tells you how many more keys you have to find in the particular level, and you can also take a look for the keys menu, which offers a perfect overview. So it could happen that you have to get through a level several times until you have found everything. But it's not like you will fall into frustration, because there is a genius map which helps you finding hidden ways. You can blend in the map as a vector graphic while you go on playing, so there is no need for annoying pausing. All the objects around you appear on the map and are differentiated by colors, while transparencies give you a hint if elements on the map are above or below your own height level. One of the many cheats there are is available for showing enemies on the map. Without this map, the game would supposedly be much longer, but which wouldn't mean a tad bit more fun. The only slightly annoying thing about the map is that elements around you only appear on the map as soon as you have gotten close to them. But I guess this is intentional, they didn't want to make it too easy. I've got a little hint for everyone who uses to get lost while searching for the keys. Pay attention to the enemies. Some enemies will be getting beamed back to their place after you have bombed them away, but most of them will stay away after dying. So you will know when you are discovering an area where you haven't been before, when you see a bunch of douchebags crossing your way.
Turok!
Next to your mission to eradicate all of the numbskulls out of that world is your job to find the mentioned keys in all the levels, which you definitely need to get for opening the following levels. Basically, the keys for the final level are protected by fat, badass end bosses, and you can be glad that there isn't one of them at the end of each level. There are only 3, but they'll teach you how to sweat. This game is an unusual one because of many specials there are. Some of them are especially interesting concerning the time of development. One of these elements is the fact that all the character animations in this game were recorded with a motion capturing technology. Remember, we are talking about 1997. That way all of the motions look just perfectly fine, and even artificial creatures, which you don't have any real ones of for recording their moves, are moving just awesomely smooth, such as the big T-Rex. If you want to get examples for exactly the opposite animation quality, you should be watching out for my tests on the N64 Castlevania games, which I am gonna do in the future. Another special element are the superb controls. Many PC gamers have the opinion ego shooters are only fun with keyboard and mouse, but I believe they never played this game. The developers really crashed their brains for finding out how they could perfectly use the N64 controller. For example, the C buttons are not being used for the camera, never minding that there is no camera to control. You use these buttons for walking while you use the control stick for choosing the directions. You really get to feel the controls after a rather short time, and it's much fun to move Turok through the levels. This is one reason why I wouldn't encourage you to play the game as an emulation on the computer. That way you might have superior picture quality and resolution, but the controls aren't the real deal with an alternative controller you might have attached to your computer. And also, while the game's controls are being programmed for a stick, you can't convert this properly to mouse control. You see, nothing's better than original. The kind of interesting fact about the game is, at least for me, that the developers team is partly German. Actually a nice thing you could think. But I am asking myself if the buddies from Acclaim do have the weird mentality of German politicians. Means the game has been changed quite a bit for publishing it in our region. So the not even closely realistic blood has gotten completely removed. Human enemies have been changed to cyborgs, and almost all the additional dying animations of the enemies were cut out. So here I will show you some scenes from the original American version, which is coming as an emulation from the computer, of course, and has been played with all the cheats there are. Even though these changings are pretty conspicuous, they don't cause the German version to be any worse than the original one, because blood and dying scenes are not making the game any more entertaining, and the cyborgs don't look too out of place in this ancient yet modern world. At least they did the work to create some extra 3D models and sounds for the cyborgs appearing in this version. Let's take a closer look at the graphics. While today people are used to high-end photorealistic 3D worlds, this here does look like a scratching piece of vinyl. But boy, in 1997 that was some kick-ass pixel work. Especially since the 3D game world was still very young at that time, the developers were ahead of their time here, both gameplay and graphics-wise. For that old time, the levels are incredibly detailed. Trees, bushes, all some proper 3D and none of these famous 2D sprites, which have been very popular because of polygon reduction over the entire N64 time of existence. Only the models of the human characters are looking rather rough, just by their time. Luck for the Europeans, cause the cyborgs are looking better. Another thing in this game, which wasn't only popular with the N64, is the omnipresent fog. Sometimes it's really ticking you off and highly limits the view. But besides it being technically more or less necessary, the programmers use the fog for difficulty. So enemies will appear only 300 feet in front of you right out of the fog, and will immediately begin to mess you up, before you might have any chance to mess them up from the distance. Well, at least they have integrated the fog into the graphic system. Means its color changes to match the environment, and its variable in thickness. It's only a matter of how far they allow you to look. There even is a small bonus level where you don't have a further sight than 4 feet. With that, you're supposed to get done difficult jumping passages. As it usually is the case with ego shooters, there is much of attention paid to the armory, since you will see them all through the entire game. There is nothing to argue about on their looks, and quite often they have nice activating animations and corresponding sounds. There are plenty of particle effects, and there's a lot of optical little details in the game, like the bright blending sun and such stuff. The design of the blue warp holes has been moving the crowd too, and they really look sweet. All of the graphics are being rounded off by a very well programmed engine, which is serving you almost every moment with a clean 30 frames a second. And we do know this is really not the standard concerning the N64 console. Concerning the sound design of the game, there are no half-assed things either. The music of the majority of the levels is made of something like bush bongo sounds, which are really nicely arranged and are partly even serving a groove. I personally like the music from the third level, But that's not important. No question the better half of the sound design is the sound effects. It's a pretty extensive palette of those, which is not gonna start sounding cheap after some game time. These guys really knew their business, and it shows how much passion was put into the game. It can really scare the hell out of you when you're in the middle of heavy gunfire with several enemies, when you just hear that sound of another enemy being warped back to the battlefield, so you will have another one to beat down while already fighting with a small army. The gameplay basically fits the classic ego shooter, still it was packaged very well on the Turok theme, and the feeling when you play is unique. You never feel bored at the length of 8 to 12 hours of game time, which isn't a bad length at all. I do know that wise asses and hardcore gamers might laugh their ass off now, and they'd be getting through there in possibly 2 hours or something. But it's about the regular gamer here, and gaming is like wine. It's about enjoying and not finishing the bottle as fast as possible. There are not only good things to tell about on this game. For example, when you're through the game, you are through. Nothing to go on with or to discover. Well, there is something else to discover, but I wouldn't say it's worth the work. Every level contains a hidden piece of a huge legendary weapon. So there are 8 pieces. The thing is called the Carnage scepter. The thing is, when you have found all of the pieces, you can only fire the weapon 3 times. And there is no way of reloading it. Well, who'd wonder, you do find the last piece right before meeting the big cheese. So it's the weapon of choice for the final battle. You will need to be an artist at the control stick for hitting the enemy, cause only when the energy beam does so, this dude will be hurt heavily by the following huge energy reaction. Some advice: there are plenty of cheats for the game, so you could just be getting you the cheats for all the weapons and unlimited ammo, and then you go messing up everything that breathes in every level with a Carnage scepter. I'll just say it as it is. Turok is an awesome game, pure gaming experience, and it stands for everything what makes me like retro gaming. No freaking waving around in front of the TV, no installing or loading updates, and no hardcore graphics, which are 80% of the entire effort spent on a game. The game offers a sleek view, which actually is pretty retro but wouldn't cause you to get eye cancer. The sound deserves the phrase entertainment, and it lets your living room vibrate. People who can deal with ego shooters will have fun with this gameplay, and so Turok Dinosaur Hunter takes place close to the top 10 in the N64 gaming charts. You see, aging doesn't mean getting worse. The digital content of this cartridge is one of these treasures of software, which are getting more and more forgotten. It really is a shame, but as long as there are ways of getting these games and the necessary hardware, the world will go on rotating.
Oh, fuck!